Eric Konovalov, welcome, man.
Hey, thanks, Jeremy.
Man, we met
Appreciate
recently.
that invite.
Yeah, absolutely. We met recently through a mutual friend, and we actually had a call last week, and it was a great call. I really appreciated you not know not knowing me, and but still having this very um, open and transparent conversation. Afterwards, I think I told you I felt like I just got a free little coaching session. Is that's just kind of, it seems like that's kind of just kind of how you're wired, right? Like you
Yeah,
just naturally seemed like you were curious and wanted to offer assistance without even really knowing me. That's just kind of how you are.
that's exactly how I am. And I have a group of entrepreneurs that we coach, and on Wednesdays we have book studies. So at this time where me and you met, we were just finishing up a book. It's fairly new, just came out in February by Charles Duhigg called Super Communicators. And one of the things he's talking about in that book is like the purpose of communication, the purpose of even having an argument with somebody. And what I took away from it is like we have so many superficial conversations that don't lead anywhere. It's like, hey, how are you? Good. How are you? What does that mean? Like, seriously, why even waste your time if you don't care? So I started doing something different, right? So, like, my kids, 2 weeks ago, I got both boys in travel soccer, and it was a stressful time in my household because they tried out for teams, so now they were waiting whether they made it or not, and competition is crazy.
Hmm.
So when people would ask me during that week, hey, how's it going? I would, instead of good, I would just say, oh my gosh, it's a crazy week in my house. I'm kind of anxious for my kids because they tried out for the soccer team, and we're waiting on results. And so fingers crossed. I'm like, hey, if you're saying prayers, say one for the kids. And what that caused was, first, people didn't expect that response to, hey, how's it going? But second, they opened up to me
Hmm.
because I would say, hey, if you know, say a prayer, but then I would follow up, like, what's going on in your life? How's your week going? And then they would feel almost obligated, and they would tell me something that they're either worried about, excited
Hmm.
about. And that led to such a deep conversation. And I don't know about you, Jeremy, but I love having deep conversations with people. I don't like the superficial stuff. I don't care about which NFL team picked up. I just don't. I want to know, like, what drives people. What are they thinking about?
Hmm.
What excites them? What are they worried about? Those are conversations
Good.
that kind of get me going.
Yeah. And it I'm sure it throws people off because to your point, we are just kind of in just this normal pattern of maybe just saying things without really thinking about them. And then so
Yeah.
when you come in with much more of a different angle and curiosity and questions, it's kind of like, whoa, I was expecting that.
Exactly. And you know what? We all crave to be heard.
Yeah.
All of us want significance, right? We want to feel significant. So what if I could be that person in somebody's life?
Mm,
And
mm,
I'll tell you, man, there's so many kind of hidden biases that I found in myself. I'll give you an example.
mm,
So I go to the gym and I go pretty early. It's fairly empty when I'm there, just before 5 a.m., around 5. And there's always this guy there that's cleaning the floors, he's cleaning the bathrooms. And I would make a point to just say, hey, how are you? Got his name. His name is Don. Hey, Don, how are you doing? And honestly, I thought he's like a special needs type program. Guy's short, kind of scrawny. He just very quiet to himself. So I wanted to be extra nice to him, not because he's another human being, because I thought that he's literally a special needs type of person. This is what's going on in my mind. So judge me all you guys want, right? I deserve it. So finally, it's me and him. I'm done working out. I'm in the locker room washing my hands, and he's cleaning the sink. And I said, "Hey man, thank you so much for always keeping the sink clean." He's like, "Oh yeah, this is no problem. Thanks for noticing," something along the lines. So I said, "Where are you from?" Because down here we're all
mm,
from somewhere else,
mm.
most of us. And he says, "Well, I'm from Virginia." I said, "No way. I moved down from Maryland. What part of Virginia?" I said, "What got you to move down?" He's like, "Well, my wife's job." So now I'm like, okay, he's married. what does your wife do? And she's some big wig at a nonprofit.
Hmm.
She moved down here. I said, what were you doing up there? He's like, I was in sales. I said, Don, I got to ask you, how did you go from sales? Because he was selling like flooring for houses.
Yeah.
How did you go from sales into working here? He said, well, my wife really is, she's got the job. We have a daughter at home, and I need to make sure that I'm available to take her to school in the mornings, pick her up. This job really gives me flexibility, and her school is right down the street. So I take her, I keep busy throughout the day. I go pick
Hmm.
her up. I spend so much time with my little girl. It's great. Do you know how much of a jackass I felt like just by judging
Yeah.
this guy,
Yeah.
not knowing anything? Now
Hmm.
the conversations are different. Hey, Don, what's your little girl into? Hey, man, what are you doing
Hmm.
for Father's Day? Right? It's completely different conversation.
Amazing.
But you know what? Every time he sees me, he knows, hey, Eric, how's it going? Hey, Eric, can I get you a towel? Hey, Eric, what's going on? Like, it's just there's this connection here that wouldn't
Hmm.
have been there if I didn't just ask, where are you from?
Yeah. That's a great story and so much there. And you're right. We all, I think, have some of these unconscious biases as we're walking around day after day in the store, interacting with other professionals. We're just immediately thinking things and not knowing anything about them. And to your point, it's, hey, what if I took some time to really get to know this person, man? It's a great, and I would imagine you would say from a business standpoint, just that skill alone sets you apart, wouldn't you say?
I think so, yeah. Just being genuinely
Mhm.
curious about people. You got to be careful with that because look, when you say business, I'm going straight to sales
Yeah.
conversations. But yeah, in a
Yeah.
business setting, as business friendships develop, it's really good. When you're having a sales conversation for the first time, you got to be careful of getting a little too curious, knowing about the person,
Okay.
because you can, what we call, go off to Pluto and miss coming off as the expert that they need at that moment to solve a problem that they may have.
Hmm.
Right. So timing is good.
Hmm.
Timing is important when you're getting genuinely curious as well.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about that. I know
Yeah.
sales is one of your areas of specialty, going back to your time as a salesperson, now coaching salespeople and training and helping organizations. Is so what if I hear what you're saying right there, there's nuance there and some skill in how you approach, say, that person, and not just, it sounds like you're saying, don't get too far out this direction of just wanting to learn about them. Can you talk just a little bit more about what that looks like and how to do that well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think the old school of sales training has been, you walk into their office, look at the pictures, look
Yeah.
what they have,
Yeah.
find something in common, and then talk about that thing because that's what they're passionate about.
Yeah.
Do you ever go to a lawyer or a doctor and they're trying to figure out what you have on or where you're from and try to find common things with you so they can go down that route? Or are they like specifically like, hey, what brings you in today? Tell
Yeah.
me about your mom's health. Tell me about your dad's, right? They're getting right into
Yeah.
the, it's still curiosity, but it's curiosity about the reason why you're there. They're not asking you, oh, you went fishing. Oh my God, I love fishing too. We must be best friends, right? And so
Mm.
so the old school is, if they like us, they'll buy from us. Yeah, if they don't like you, probably they're not going to buy from you.
Right.
But because they like you doesn't mean they'll buy from you either. Just take a look at how
Right.
many friends are buying your stuff and services, right? They're the first ones to go ghost. And
Right.
typically that's because they know who you truly are. They've drank with you, they've partied with you, they know who
Mm.
you are. You can't come off it, right?
Mm.
So when a potential buyer is with us and they've invited us into a conversation to solve their problem, you got to come in sharp as a tack. You got to come in as the expert who can solve that problem.
Mm.
You have to come in very curious about the challenges they're having,
Mm.
not about, what they like to do on the weekend.
Yep.
I
Yep.
call it, don't confuse rapport for commonality.
That's good, man. And you're right. I remember instances where I was in past positions in somewhat of a decision making capacity, and I would have various salespeople come in for a meeting, and they would they'd see the picture or this or that, and there were times when it didn't feel genuine. It
Okay.
felt like they were what you're just saying, like, let me observe a couple things, try to maybe make this connection, get them to like me, act interested in them, which I mean isn't bad in itself, but to your point, that's not the conversation I was looking for, right?
Exactly.
And so that's a good point, and one that's well taken, to say be about what you're there to talk about with the potential client, not get off script
Yeah,
and
be
not be
professional.
disingenuous.
Be the expert that they need to solve a problem. You become their friend. They'll be friendly with you. They might even go to lunch with you, but they're going to buy from somebody else because they're going to
Yeah,
believe that that person will solve their problem.
absolutely. Let's talk a little bit, just staying on sales for a minute. And you've got the book, Be Sales Secrets. Again, maybe you could talk just a little bit. I know your background, a lot of sales experience. Now you're, again, coaching, training, helping people get better at selling. What are some of the common themes you see of things that salespeople just get wrong and do not do well? I'm sure there's a
Oh,
few,
yeah.
maybe like the top
How many
top
days do we
ones.
have?
I'm sure there's a bunch. Yeah, like what are those? Those top kind of things you just constantly see that they just do not do well.
So let's look at every stage of the sales cycle. Why don't we do that, right?
Okay.
So I call it the buyer's journey. The first stage would be courting them or cold calling, right? Let's say cold call is the very
Okay.
first step. Drive by a building, you come in, and there's that person sitting in the front. And what does every salesperson do? They come in, hey, I'm Jim with ABC Company. We help companies save money on XYZ, and we establish this, this, and this. I have my business card. Could you tell me who handles that in your office? And I call that spilling your beans in the lobby. And the reason why you don't want to spill your beans in the lobby is because that person cannot say yes and cannot buy from you.
Mm,
But they can say no and tell you they're not interested.
mm,
So one mistake is they're giving ammo to this person. We call them gatekeepers, right? The director of first impression, receptionist, whatever
yeah.
you want to call that person.
Right.
We're giving them ammo to say no to. And what happens? Like when I was selling copiers, I would walk in, I say, hey, I help companies save money with their office equipment. And if she knows that they already have a copier, she's like, oh, we already have a copier. We don't need it.
Mm,
How do you know what you need? They don't know what they're spending. They don't know if it works. They don't know anything. And I've just given her ammo to say,
yeah.
we don't need that. We're all good.
Mm,
Don't spill your beans in the lobby. Keep
okay.
it very high level, right? So you asked me what did they do wrong? So that's what's
Okay.
wrong on a cold call. If you're making a cold call via phone, you sounding like everybody else.
Yeah.
That's a mistake that salespeople make. Now imagine 7 p.m. You get home from work, your wife, kids are there, you're ready to have dinner. Your phone rings is that 1-888 number, and you're like, I should not pick this up.
Shouldn't. Yeah.
But something says, nah, just see, maybe I want the sweepstakes or something. You pick it up and it's like, hi, Jeremy, this is Evan with ABC Company. How are you doing? What goes through your mind?
I'm. I know I'm getting ready to be sold. I'm probably annoyed.
And you're a nice guy. You're probably not hanging up, but you are annoyed.
I'm a little annoyed. Yeah.
A lot of people would hang up. They
Oh
just hung
yeah.
up
Oh,
because they
absolutely. Just
already
click.
know.
Yeah.
Jeremy, the next words out of that guy's mouth could have been, you just won $1 million in our surprise giveaway. And we don't care. We don't even care enough to find
Okay.
out because all of us have been conditioned
Yeah.
and we have this switch in our brain that's a sales resistance
Mm,
switch. We
mm,
know when we're about to be sold.
yeah.
And when we hear that, hey, Jeremy, this is Evan from ABC Company. What Evan just did is turn that switch on in your brain, which starts
Yeah.
annoying you.
Yeah.
So instead, what we got to do is use different tonality, use varying tonality. Everybody sounds the same, but what if we set it in the form of a question?
Mm,
Ever since we're little kids, we're conditioned to answer questions. We are innately we have this need to want to be right. That's why when somebody posts a stupid question on Facebook, like, hey, what's better, pizza or lasagna? You see like freaking thousands of comments, right? Pizza, lasagna, because we want to give our 2 cents, right?
Yeah.
So there's a tonality that's a questioning tonality. You can say things in the form of a question, and it sounds different than everybody else. So I would, if I'm making a cold call, I would be standing up, first of all, smiling. And I would say, hey, Jeremy. And you'd say, huh? I said, yeah, this is Eric, the Goal Guide. And right away you're thinking like, do I know Eric? Am I supposed to know Eric? And you don't want to be wrong. Eric sounds like he knows me. He's asking me a question. It's not what I say, it's how I say it that triggers the response that in your brain. So right then and there, that gives me enough time for my second kind of for my second 4 seconds, right? We it's like, what's his name? Fast and Furious. I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
Right.
In sales over the phone, we live our life 4 seconds at a time. You're begging for the next 4 seconds. Like every book, you're begging for them, this page better be good so that they turn to the next page. Every series on TV, they end in a cliffhanger so that you want to watch the next episode, right? So like, that's what we want to do here. The first 4 seconds matter, and it buys you enough time to not get hung up on. So then you can lean in, use the mystery man tonality and say, now, Jeremy, the reason for the call, it's nice and calm. Listen, the reason for the call is you entered something, you requested some information, or you're a leader and you're currently in the leadership role in this position, correct? Yeah, and you're already like, yeah, correct. I'm in a leadership role in this position. Okay, wonderful. The reason I'm reaching out is to schedule a brief introduction meeting with you. I've actually worked with and I would name your position, other COOs, other sales executives, other CEOs in your area, maybe drop a name of a company you've worked with. And we've been able to get them some really good results with XYZ. I don't know if I can help you or not, but would it be worth, 20 minutes for us to hop on a call and see? Not selling you. I'm simply giving you some information, asking you if it'll be worth it.
That's good.
So that's a cold call.
It's good.
Next mistake people make, we already talked about in a sales conversation. When they show up to the sales conversation, they go off to Pluto. They don't have a script. They don't plan for objections. They think objections are a bad thing, right? So somebody says, oh, I don't have the money, and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So getting really good in the sales conversation at gathering intelligence and going deeper. The mistake I've seen salespeople make, and the way you know it is they show up after the sales call back to the bullpen, and the manager says, hey, how did that go? And they're like, awesome. They loved me. Everything went great. I'm giving them a proposal next day. 3 weeks later, how's that deal going?
Yeah.
I don't know. That guy must have died or something. He's not picking up my calls, right? He's always in the meetings.
Wow.
So what we want to do in these conversations is really understand their problem, right? And dive deep, deep, deep into the problem. I have 5 types of questions that I teach people to ask on these sales conversations. That's in the intelligence gathering kind of phase. Number 1 are curiosity questions. Just this is how we build rapport really quick. Like, hey, Jeremy, I see you're the CIO here. What all falls under you? What are some of the projects you guys have going? How's your team? Good, wonderful, awesome. Then we want to know today questions. How are things working out with what I'm there to talk about today, right? So if it's sales training, how are things going with your sales now? What are you guys doing? Are you happy? Where are you to quota? And I'm going to dig deep, 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 deep. Then it's tomorrow questions. Well, where do you want to be with this? Like you mentioned that you guys are selling 100K a month. Where would you like your team to be? Oh, I'd like them to be at 300. Okay, great. Next one is stop sign questions. Well, if you know you'd like to be at 300, what's stopping you? I really want to know. What do you think is holding you guys back? Oh, man, my guys aren't trained enough. Nobody has money nowadays, right? And I'm writing all this stuff down, right? So we got curiosity, today, tomorrow, stop sign. And the last one is personal reward. And that's the emotional type questions. hey, Jeremy, so if you were able to get to $300,000 a month, first of all, how did you pick that number? Why not 1 million? Why not 200?
Mm,
And what would that mean for you? Like, has anybody ever done that in a company? Like, what are you trying to
mm.
achieve by getting to that goal? Now, I'm going to ask probably 4, 5, 6 questions in each type of those
Right.
questions, right? And that's going to really give me an opportunity to understand them.
Mm,
So that's in the sales conversation, the mistake they make is not doing that.
mm-hmm.
And somebody says, what I've seen salespeople do is somebody would say, well, I'd like to be at 300,000. Oh, great. We know exactly how to get you there. Let me tell
Mm,
you about my product. But
mm.
why would he like to be at 300,000? What's stopping him from being at 300,000, right? Like they don't dive into that. That's a mistake.
Mm.
On the follow-up, before they leave, they don't schedule the next meeting.
Next meeting. Yeah.
That's a huge mistake. You got
Yeah.
to schedule the next meeting before you leave. Have both of you agree to something before you leave.
Mm-hmm.
Next steps, next meeting. Then after that, they submit a proposal with pricing. And a lot of times, I think the ego kicks in, Jeremy. And what
Mm-hmm.
happens with salespeople is they believe they truly understood the client, but they might have misheard something or missed
Yeah.
something. And so the proposal doesn't match up to what the client articulated.
Mm.
So what I do is called a validation meeting. After our meeting, I say, hey, Jeremy, you know what? I think I got the right solution together. Can I run it by you just to see what you think of it?
Mm-hmm.
No pricing at all. So now we have a meeting where me and Jeremy sit down. Now it all depends on what you're selling, right? The more
Yeah.
complex,
Sure.
the better. But if you're selling widgets,
Yeah.
probably don't need this. But if you're putting together a package or a solution, I'm going to sit down with Jeremy and we're talking training. I'm going to say, hey, you mentioned that these are the challenges you're having. I'm thinking about doing training and setting it up this way and having these types of follow-ups and this. How does this sound? Will this work in your environment? And if you say, no, you know what? I don't think we can get our team together for half days, 5 weeks in a row. Great. What can you do? Oh, we could probably do 2 hours at a time. We can do it maybe every other week. Perfect. Let me switch those things up and I'll get back to you. Once I listened to them, I switched it up. Guess what? I'm still not submitting the proposal. I'm going to
Mm.
have another validation meeting.
Wow.
I'll have the pricing ready for it though. And then I'll sit down with Jeremy again. I'll say, okay, I think I heard you correctly last time. Here, you mentioned this, this, and this. Here's what I did. Am I missing anything, or is this exactly what you want? Oh, Eric, this is perfect. Great. I got the pricing right here. Right. So let's talk about what the investment is going to be.
Mm.
So it's just methodical,
Yeah.
taking the steps. And then after the sale, they don't do account reviews.
Mm.
And an account review gives you so much more opportunities to learn what's going on in your client's world, what new goals are they setting, what new challenges are they having, and potentially sell them other products and services that you have, or find out how your company is servicing the account. And if they're happy, get some referrals from them,
Yeah.
right? Like we
Yeah.
missed that boat completely
Right.
because we're so, and it's not really the salesperson's fault because they're not incentivized to do that.
Mm.
Your manager's all about go get new business, new business, new business. And there's nobody really building those relationships with current clients.
Mm.
If I'm looking at the whole sales cycle, that's kind of a mistake that I see being made in all of those areas.
Those are great. I mean, that's so insightful, and just walking through that process and recognizing if you want to be really good in a sales capacity, like there's a lot to it. I mean, you don't just show up, and in my experience, I've noticed, whether it just be people I've worked with in a sales capacity or being on the other end of it, sometimes salespeople just talk too much,
Oh my gosh.
and just it's just like, hey, like everything you just articulated was about asking questions, learning more about the customer. It's not about coming in as a salesperson and just talking about you and your company, how great you are,
That's right.
which I see a lot. Right? So I don't know if that's bad training, if that's um I don't know. What do you think's at the heart of that? Why that
100% old
just
old
old
school
school?
training.
Yeah.
You got a manager who had a manager who had a manager before there was internet, right? And that's how they continually trained.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. When I first got into copier sales, I left the Marine Corps in 2006, get into copier sales. The way
Mhm.
I was trained is we had a brochure. It was a trifold. So the little training was you show up and you go bullet by bullet. There was nothing about how we service the customer. There was nothing.
Mm.
It's like we've been in business for 50 years in this local area. Who cares?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
We've been in business for 50 years.
Right.
We have X amount of employees. We're right here locally. We have this in our service department. We've partnered with this manufacturer to sell the best brand. Here's our service response times. We're really good at service. And it's like, that's what I would do. And then I went to a Dale Carnegie training.
Hmm.
I just happened to win it. Like this was like
Uh,
serendipitous, man. I was a friend of mine called me up randomly. He says, "Hey, I have a ticket to go see Jeffrey Gitomer." And if you don't know who Jeffrey
oh,
Gitomer is, he's
yes.
awesome, man. He
Yes.
wrote all those
The
little
red, the
book
red
of
book of
yes,
little
the
red
red
book of
books.
selling.
The little
Like
red
the
book
it
of
was always like
selling.
a it was always like a funny number. I don't know, it was
Yeah.
like 19.5. I don't know how to
19,
remember it, but
yeah,
I
he had
love his
his like
books.
his books were great. He had
Yeah.
his, yeah, I think like 21.5
That's it. 21.5.
impeccable laws of selling or
Yeah.
something. And I really, really love that guy. And so he was in Northern Virginia. I was in Baltimore. He was coming in for like a daily seminar.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine calls. He's like, dude, I got this ticket to the seminar. I can't go. Do you want to go? I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to go. So I go, and outside in the lobby were all these different vendors. You know, you drop your card in and you can
Yep.
potentially win. I dropped my card in and I won a $3,000 Dale Carnegie training.
Wow.
Like they called me up and I couldn't believe it, right? They called me up
Yeah.
and, hey, listen, we picked your card. You won. I'm like, yeah, right. No way. Um, how much do I have to pay you? Nothing. Just show up. It's a 3-day training. Here's where it's going to be. And I did it. And it was the very first time I actually had some formal sales training,
Okay.
but by a good organization.
Mm.
I've never
Yeah.
had that before. So on day one or day two, the guy comes in, the instructor comes in, and he writes GOY on the board. He's like, who can tell me what this stands for? And I'm like, nobody could guess it. Finally, he says, it stands for get over yourself.
Mm.
Sales is not about you.
Yeah.
And there was this big light bulb because in my briefcase, I have these trifolds that are all about me and about my company. And like, this is how we sell. Man, I soaked that up like a sponge, learned everything I could, and just got out and started implementing right away what I was learning. And my sales increased, like the conversion rates increased. The clients, I was building a better relationship. It wasn't
Mm.
as transactional. They were looking at me like I'm a consultant. Like, hey, Eric, here are my contracts. Can you evaluate these? Like, can you
Mm.
imagine a sales guy with the competitors' contracts and
Wow.
agreements and invoices? I got info for everything I needed to make like the best deal possible for them. And that was kind of the launch of it. So,
Wow.
but most people, one, they don't invest in themselves. I can't tell you how many salespeople will not invest in their own training because they believe their company should invest in it. And listen, if my company doesn't do it, I won't do it. That's just stupid. That's dumb. You got to grow yourself.
Yep.
You got to learn, read the books,
Mm.
get on the podcast. Information's free everywhere. You
Yeah.
got to invest in yourself.
Yeah. For sure. That was obviously a pivotal moment for you. It
Huge.
changed your mindset, and then fast forward to 2015 and you decide, hey, I want to go out on my own.
Yeah, I want to start
Launch the goal guide, right? Can you
Yeah, the
talk?
gold guy got launched, but it was like a side hustle.
Okay.
So, okay, so fast forward. I mean, we're what I'm talking to, this is back 2006,
Yep.
2007.
Yep.
Fast forward, I became a sales manager for a
Uh-huh.
Xerox owned company for their Baltimore area, managed a team of 10 or 12.
Okay.
Then I got hired to be a director of sales for another tech company just outside of DC. And that was more of a mom and pop shop. And so I come in there and, you know, the husband passed away to cancer. His wife took over as CEO. Her son is president. His wife is admin and HR. Their daughters are marketing. Everybody from their church is the truck driver, the service people, the salespeople. Like they are a tight knit
Wow.
Christian
Yeah.
like group.
Yeah.
Here comes a Jewish kid from Xerox. And I get in there and I would say, hey guys, why don't we have a field day where we partner up, go cold calling, because they had the company did they were amazing at service. I mean, nobody would offer better service than this company.
Yeah.
And so the sales reps would constantly upgrade their old clients. New business wasn't really a thing. So my job was to get new business. So I would recommend having field days and going out cold calling, and they would go to the president's office and say, why do we need this guy here? Can you fire him? Like, it was the worst. I mean, it was,
Can we fire?
I didn't know what to do. So I mentioned I go to the gym early. I started researching like leadership on YouTube. So YouTube University became my like go to for schooling. And I would be on a treadmill and I'd have different leadership gurus teaching me leadership, and John Maxwell kept popping up.
Yeah.
So that led to me buying his books. And then that led to me researching about John Maxwell. And then who knew he had a team that he was building.
Yeah.
And Google, I guess, told John that I was researching him too much. So somebody from his team called me up and they said, hey, do you know who John Maxwell is? I'm like, yeah, of course I know who John Maxwell is. I spend every morning with him. And they're like, well, he's got a team. Are you interested in learning about leadership? And I was like, yes. So I signed up for the John Maxwell team to become a better leader. But they have two sides. One side teaches you how to start your own teaching and consulting and coaching company,
Right.
having a license to John's IP.
Right.
Other side teaches you how to become a better leader. So I came there for one side, but I was looking over there and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I could go teach this stuff, because what I was implementing was working well.
Yeah.
And I cold called 10 business owners in Baltimore at that time and said, hey, listen, I want to try something out. Can we do a mastermind group? I need one of you to give me a space. We'll meet Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. And I'm going to do a mastermind group. I'll facilitate it on John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership book. And at the end of the 10 weeks, every single one of you will see improvement. I don't know what kind, but I know you'll see huge improvement. Sure enough, at the end of the 10 weeks, 4 of them came to me and said, hey, Eric, can we hire you to come do this for our managers? What would you charge? So that free group then became, I was like, I don't know, $3,000. I just threw out a number. So that free mastermind group turned into $12,000, and that's how my business launched.
That was the beginning.
Yeah.
And it started as a side thing. At what point did you feel ready, or just made the decision to say, hey, I want to launch full on into this?
Yeah. So by this point, we were doing really good at the company where I was director of sales.
Yeah.
Went from 4 million to about 12 million
Wow.
in 3 years.
Wow.
And probably like a year after joining the John Maxwell team, which was right around 2015. Yeah. So probably 6 months after that experience, I went to the president of the company and I said, hey, I submitted my letter of resignation. And he said, listen, can you just give me 24 hours and let's meet up tomorrow evening and talk about this. Let me think about something. I said, sure. So we met up again. He's like, listen, what do I need to do to keep you? Like, I just want to go do this. I don't know what you can do. He's like, how about this? I'll give you full autonomy to go do whatever it is you want to do. Train, teach, have your business. I'll give you a raise if you stay here and our numbers don't drop. So he literally wrote a number on a little sticky note, gave it to me. He's like, here's the number if you stay, and you can go run your business. And I was like, why would you do that? He said, I'll tell you someday, but you're going to do it or no? Like, yeah. It's like, dude, I'll stay. It's like, he's funding me to go run my business.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm so naturally optimistic. Like, my thought process is like, what can possibly go wrong? Where I had no idea how fast businesses fail. I never researched that. I didn't, but that was like a saving grace for me. It was great. And it also held me back from really going after my business, right? Because there was guilt associated with it. Hey, I got my sales team. I got to help them. And Anyway, so in 2021, during COVID, when ships were frozen, you couldn't get any deliveries, we would have millions of dollars worth of contracts signed and nothing was coming through. I parted ways with the company. And by that time, I had enough clients where I just stepped into the Goal Guide role, and
Wow.
it was a lot easier to do than it would have been when I did it in 2015.
Yeah, for sure. What a great opportunity, I guess, to still have the stability, right, of the main job, and then still build
Yeah,
your
that's the
your
best.
side business to launch it. So then you launched all in 2021.
Yeah, I
And
went all in 2021. I already had coaching clients. I've already been doing trainings, had my
yeah,
podcast. So it was like pretty easy. I had systems in place. It was
yeah.
easy to step into.
So tell us about the goal guide and really maybe what your sweet spot is and really how you help people get from, where they are to where they're trying to go.
Yeah, man. So what's interesting is what people need and what they want are two different things,
Okay.
right? So what I'd like to tell you is the Goal Guide really is a mindset and life coaching organization
Mm,
that helps people remove self-limiting beliefs,
mm,
install new beliefs that will serve them way better to get to their goal.
mm,
But when I say that to people, they're like, yeah, I don't need to install beliefs. I just need to sell more, or I just need to be a better leader, or I just need to start my company. And I don't know why I'm not doing it and I'm procrastinating. Can you help me
mm.
market myself better? Right. So, what I tell people is I'm a business coach. But what happens when we get together, 99.9% of the time, what's holding people back is their own BS, which is their belief system. So, what we do is start working on that and we transform the way they see things and the
Mm.
way they see themselves. But on the surface level, it's sales training. Companies will
Yeah.
hire me to come in and do sales training, coach their leaders, communications training, how to create a 5-star client experience. We do that. On
Yeah.
the one-on-one case, we're transforming people's minds.
How how do you get to that place with the person knowing that, to your point, they just want to talk about, hey, I need more sales. I need this or that. So how do you almost flip it a little bit, I guess, to where you can get into that conversation about self-limiting beliefs? Because I'm just guessing there's resistance to going there because now people have got to be transparent, vulnerable. Is that accurate? That
Yeah, I mean, one, you got to truly care about people. That's number one. Like you have to care about people you're with because they
yeah,
feel that, and when they feel like you care for
yeah.
them and truly have their best interest in mind, they're gonna open up a lot faster than if they don't think you care for them.
Hmm.
The way I would do that is constantly like my same 5 types of questions. There's through my coaching model, it's different questioning
Yeah.
methodologies, but it's really understanding like where do you want to be and why do you think you're not there? And where the transition happens is, yeah, Eric, I really don't know because I put it on my calendar to cold call, and then that time comes and I'll surf the internet or I'll go look at emails or I'll go make sure my dishwasher is cleaned up, right? I'm like, huh,
Yes.
why do
Yes.
you think that is?
Mm.
Like, I don't know, I don't want to bother people. Tell me about that.
Mm.
What do you mean by bother people? Well, I hate when salespeople call me out of the blue. Like, I don't want to bother people. And right there is the
Mm.
little permission to walk into a different type of conversation.
Good.
And through certain questionings, we go deep into like what they were programmed to believe when they were a kid with their parents, right? And
Yeah.
then they're like, "Oh my God, I had no idea that that's what it was."
Yeah. That's good. That's good, man. And it I think it goes back to even what you were talking about in that sales process. Again, just asking really good questions, being genuinely interested in people, being curious, listening well. You do that, I think people will hopefully start to open up to you. But I'm sure it takes a little time. Like, so you got to build that trust, and they got to know that you
Does.
care.
It's real coaching came from asking questions.
Mhm.
So it goes back to I think 1970s with some tennis pro. And what they realized was that when he would make a really good hit, his coach wouldn't say, great job or something like that. He would say, hey, hold on 1 second. What did you do differently with that hit than you did with the one before?
Mm.
And that would force him to really think through, what did I do differently? And what they realize is when the person comes up with the answers, they're going to have a much higher success rate of getting better results. When you tell somebody what to do, there's resistance. Like, oh, you don't know. You're just a coach. I'm over here
Yep.
swinging, right? You don't know.
Yep.
So, getting people to go inside and think through, nobody thinks anymore, right? Nobody pauses and thinks, why did I just do that? Why didn't I do that? Okay, I had these 3 things scheduled that I just completely blew off. Why did I allow myself to do that? And what a
Mm.
coach will do is kind of help you take a look at that and think through what happened.
Hmm. For sure. That's good. I know we're up against the stop here in a minute, but I wanted to ask you a couple more things as we wrap up. Just going back to kind of your journey, and I know there was a lot we didn't even get to, in what shaped you and formed you, but leading to where you are now and starting your own business. I I feel like there's a lot of people these days, and you would know this, having coached a lot of folks who want to do something different than probably what they are doing. Right? There's a dream, there's a goal, maybe it's a side hustle, it's a passion. What do you see as the main things that are holding people back? And I'm guessing it has something to do with belief system, but
Only
from
always.
taking action on those goals. What's that?
Yeah, only always is it their
Only.
belief system. And it's imagination, right? Like we've been given, if I ask you, what are your 5 senses? And any kid, every single one of them will tell you that, see, hear, smell, taste, touch, right? Like we know that.
Yeah.
But we've been gifted by God with intellectual faculties. One
Yeah.
of them is memory, one of them is imagination, one of them is reasoning, visualization, faith, like all that we've been gifted with.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is that they use their imagination in the wrong way. And it's always imagination.
Hmm.
So you want to start your own business, and then all these ideas come into mind of why it won't work. You're imagining why it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But you could just as easily imagine why it will work. We're just not intentional about using the faculty of imagination.
Hmm.
And you can do that also by using the faculty of reason. Like I tell anybody I coach one-on-one is we take their beliefs to court. So the first thing we start off with is for the next week, I want you to keep a notepad and write down every thought that was negative, that's not aligned with your goals, and that's a self-limiting belief that you hear. I want you to focus on those. And so they come back with a full list. I'm bad at remembering names. I
Hmm.
never get there on time. Oh, I suck at sales. I do this. I literally, we go one by one and reason with that is that we put it up on a stand and prosecute the hell out of it
Hmm.
because that's what's holding you back. And so we're if we don't do that, we're allowing the same thoughts to continue to hold us back. So at some point, somebody needs to step out of this crazy cycle, get these beliefs. Like who said it? Until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our life and we will call it faith. Well, make it conscious.
Yeah.
And how do we do that? We write it down, we pay attention to it, we bring it to court, we prosecute it. And if it makes sense, usually it doesn't make sense anymore. You're like, oh yeah, it doesn't make sense for me to believe that I'm stupid because my teacher said I was stupid in 7th grade. Why do I still believe that?
Hmm.
And then we create new beliefs, right? But until you know what your current beliefs are, you're just
Hmm.
gonna allow that to run it. It's a
Mhm.
program that's running your everyday life.
Take your beliefs to court. I like that. It's a great metaphor and visualization of that process, and takes hard work, takes some, again, vulnerability, and but you've seen it, that you can get people past those beliefs and
I'm a
help.
product of it.
Yeah.
I'm a product of it, Jeremy. I hired, I don't know how many coaches I've hired.
Hmm.
By the way, never work with a coach who doesn't have a coach. They
Hmm.
don't believe in it. We all have blind spots.
Hmm.
I always have a mentor or a coach. Always.
It's great insight. What would be an action step? Like, I always like to give everyone just something to think about. They've got a goal, they've got a dream, they've got a habit they want to change, something in their life, their business. They want to, finances. I need to make more to pay off this or achieve this goal. Where do you start? Like, what's something someone could do today to start moving that direction, knowing that it's going to take a lot more steps? What's a good first step that you try to get people
Yeah,
to
the only logical first step in anything is get super clear on what you want.
mm,
That's number one. Like more money is that
mm,
doesn't do it. Like what if I give you one more dollar than you earned last year? Is that good? That's more money.
mm,
No, like get very, very clear at what it is that you want.
mm,
Have that goal in front of you at all times. Like if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich and follow the 6 steps, do that. You know, write it down, visualize it, see it, have faith that you can achieve it.
mm,
So step one is get very, very clear. Step two, get a journal and just start thinking about, well, how can I get there?
mm,
What if this was possible for me? What would the steps be? What would need to happen for me to get there? And you start writing out everything that needs to happen for you to get there. And then pick one of those and set that as your goal.
mm.
Keeping the big goal as a vision.
Yeah.
And then we're going to break it down and pick one, and that'll be our goal. And then we take that one. All right, what's the first thing I need to do to get to this point? So now we're super clear on what we're going after. That's pretty much how the book
Place
was
to
written.
start. Yeah. Listen, lots to unpack here. I appreciate your time, man.
Maybe we'll do a part two, Jeremy.
as I say, we'll have to connect again and dig into
Yeah,
this
I'm
more.
enjoying it.
There's so much here, but I do want to leave with a call out to your website, thegoalguide.com. But then you also have a coaching community. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I wanted to give everybody the power of having a coach for a very low investment. So
Hmm.
for $97 per month,
Hmm.
you get a community where there are 3 calls available every week. One is a teaching call, one is an open Q&A call where our members hop in and I literally, hey Eric, I send this proposal. They went ghost on me. Eric, I don't know what to do in this situation. And I coach them through it. And then the third type of call is a book study call. So like right now we're doing the compound effect, which
Hmm.
is really cool, but everything is recorded in our learning platform. So if you can't make the calls live, you can catch the recordings. And there are no, by the way, first month is free. So test it
Okay.
out. I'll give you a link, Jeremy. Test
Great.
it out. If it's for you, great. If not, then don't. But at least you'll get some really cool trainings and recordings to really good
Yeah,
stuff.
that's phenomenal. And what an investment and a great opportunity to be around other people who are trying to grow and get better and have that encouragement and have access to you at a very low entry point. So thegoalguide.com, you're all over social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. We can find all that at your website, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the
Perfect.
goalguide.com, when you go to that site, there's a little button up top that says unlock your full potential. That's the
Yep.
link to take you to our group coaching site.
Okay. Perfect. We'll post a link to that. But man, Eric, seriously, thank you for the time. Great insight, great conversation, and I'd love to have some, like I said, maybe a part two. We can dig in a little more, but this was super helpful, and just appreciate you and the work you're doing, man.
Yeah, likewise, Jeremy. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you guys for listening.
We'll see you again soon, man.
For sure. Bye, everybody.